The galaxy did not notice Earth at first. Why would it? To them, it was a fragile world clinging to a modest star, its people barely crawling into orbit. Too small to matter. Too weak to remember. So when the harvesters came, no one interfered. They were vast, grotesque, ancient. To the galactic empires, they were not conquerors, but inevitabilities. Colossal warforms bred to cull young civilizations before they could grow dangerous. They did not negotiate. They did not enslave. They devoured. On Earth, we called them titans. Humanity fought with rifles, tanks, missiles, everything they had. It was less than nothing. Cities fell in hours, nations in days, and then came the wall, not of stone but of orbit, a cordon of alien fleets and stations, a noose around Earth's throat. It was not elegant, not divine, just overwhelming power. The harvesters did not need to destroy every last human. They only needed to pen them in, let them wither until the next culling. The galaxy had seen this before. 1,000 worlds farmed, 1,000 species reduced to husks. None had ever escaped the cage. For them, Earth was finished, but predators always make the same mistake. They mistake silence for weakness. For a century, humanity survived. Others would have given up. Other species, facing predators 100 times their size, would have vanished into ash. But not humans. We learned, we planned, we sharpened steel and trained our bodies. In ruined cities, children practiced with hooks and lines, leaping between towers as if they had wings. In broken bunkers, engineers welded railguns from scavenged debris, weapons that tore themselves apart after a dozen shots. But those dozen were enough to matter. We turned every failure into a lesson. Every corpse into data. Every battle into something the harvesters had not expected. Progress. And though the galaxy was silent, it watched. And it began to whisper. The cattle endure. The walls and the cordon, you were never perfect. There were cracks, and in those cracks, humanity did what it always does. Improvise. Smugglers turned scrap into engines. Soldiers turned desperation into doctrine. Farmers turned poisons into fuels. Everywhere, the will to fight smoldered. A will not born from hope, but from defiance. Because humanity is not a species that waits for permission to exist. And deep within the cage, the predators could not see it yet. But the truth was already burning. The first battles were chaos. Humans were outnumbered 1,000 to 1. Their weapons were makeshift. Their ships were coffins bolted together from wreckage. Railguns tore themselves apart after a handful of shots. Jetpacks cooked their pilots alive if they ran too hot. Most missions ended in death. But in those deaths, humanity found something no other species had ever shown: adaptability. The harvesters expected silence, submission, the kind they had always seen before. On 100 worlds, young races had bowed their heads and waited for the inevitable. But humans are not cattle. We fought gravity with hooks and steel cables, flinging ourselves through ruined towers like predators on leashes. We built rifles that could punch holes through armor, even if they shattered our bones in recoil. We learned to blind sensors with reflective foil, to jam alien weapons with static, to suffocate giants with fire and ash. Every defeat became a lesson. Every corpse became a teacher, and little by little the impossible began to crack. One alien commander, bloated with arrogance, laughed at our resistance. He called us vermin, said Earth would burn like all the others. A week later, his flagship fell silent, torn apart not by fleets, but by a human squadron that had stitched railguns to old satellites and hurled themselves at him like meteors. The galaxy whispered, "The cattle fight back." For the harvesters, this was new. Their warforms had culled thousands of species. They had never faced prey that refused the role. Never faced prey that adapted faster than predators could correct. For the first time, the harvesters hesitated, but humanity did not. We swarmed their giants like ants, climbing, detonating, tearing. We aimed not for glory but for weakness, joints, eyes, throats, and in anywhere flesh met armor. And though we died in the thousands, every death carved another scar into the monsters that thought us food. The harvesters had always believed the cage was unbreakable, but cracks were spreading in. The galaxy began to whisper again. The cattle win. Inside the cage, humanity had lit its first sparks. They were crude. They were desperate. But fire is still fire, even when struck from stones, and soon that fire would spread. The harvesters had grown tired of the sparks. They had seen prey twitch before. Fleeting resistance, small fires that burned out quickly. But humans were different. Their sparks spread. Their fires grew. And so the harvesters sent something greater. They unleashed their colossal warforms, living titans of bone and steel, biomechanical gods the size of cities. Each step cracked the earth. Each swing shattered mountains. The galaxy watched, certain it was the end, but it was not the end. It was the beginning. The battle was slaughter. Tens of thousands of humans hurled themselves at a single titan. Jetpacks screamed, cables snapped, rifles melted in their hands. Explosives detonated too early, tearing soldiers apart mid-air. Entire squadrons were erased in seconds, and still they came. Wave after wave, humans swarmed. They climbed the giant's legs, tore at its joints, dug through its armor with plasma torches. They screamed their rage into alien flesh, knowing they would never see another dawn. For hours the titan fought. For hours humans died. Until at last the colossus faltered. A final detonation ripped through its skull, and the titan crashed to the earth in a blaze of fire. Silence followed. Not the silence of death, but the silence of awe. The galaxy had never seen such a thing. For 1,000 years, no species had ever slain a harvester warform. No prey had ever turned the predator into carrion. And in that silence, the galaxy learned fear. On Earth, humans roared. Entire cities screamed with triumph. Not because the war was won, but because it was possible. Because titans could bleed. Because gods could fall. One giant down meant more would come. More battles, more deaths. More oceans of blood. But it did not matter, because humanity had proven the harvesters wrong. This was not the story of extinction. This was the story of defiance. And the galaxy whispered a new phrase. Humans don't wait for permission to exist. Humans take it. The fall of the first titan did not end the war. It ignited it. The harvesters answered with fury. More titans descended. More fleets tightened the noose around Earth. The galaxy nodded in approval. This was how it always ended. The predators reasserting control. The prey crushed beneath inevitability. But inevitability was a lie. Because humans had learned the secret. The cage was not unbreakable. For a generation, humanity prepared. Children grew up not in schools, but in ruins, taught to fight, to climb, to improvise. Factories no longer made comforts, they made weapons. Every village, every bunker, every survivor contributed. And from the scraps of ruin, humanity built ships. They were not elegant. They were not beautiful. Compared to the sleek vessels of the galaxy, they were abominations. Jagged, ugly machines, patched with stolen parts and human desperation. But they were fast, they were resilient, they were deadly, because humans do not build for grace. Humans build to win. The first fleet did not rise quietly. They punched through orbit in fire and thunder, a swarm of brutal ships blazing against the black. They did not ask permission. They did not wait for diplomacy. They struck. Nuclear fire bloomed across the blockade. Kinetic strikes hammered into alien stations. Missiles howled through the void, guided by human ingenuity, not perfection. The harvesters expected chaos. They expected panic. But what they faced was precision, the kind forged in blood, in failure, in centuries of fighting with nothing left to lose. And when the dust cleared, the noose was gone. Earth was free. Across the galaxy, entire civilizations froze in disbelief. No world had ever escaped. No species had ever broken the cordon, and yet here was Earth, scarred, burning, half dead, tearing its chains apart with nothing but rage and ingenuity. The whispers spread. The cattle are loose. The humans are free. The harvesters rallied to crush the rebellion. They unleashed fleets older than Earth itself. They sent more titans, more warforms, more nightmares, but it was too late. Humanity had seen the truth. The harvesters bled. The harvesters died. And once humans knew something could be killed, nothing could save it. The first human fleet did not retreat. They advanced. They captured an alien dreadnought, tore it apart piece by piece, and rebuilt it into something even deadlier. They turned predator technology into prey ingenuity, and with every battle, more humans rose. More ships launched. More tactics were born. The galaxy had underestimated humanity. Now it would pay. And then came the broadcast. carried on every stolen channel, burned into every star system the harvesters ruled. We are humanity. We are not prey. We are not cattle. We are coming. The galaxy listened. The galaxy trembled. And for the first time, the galaxy believed. The galaxy had always obeyed the same rule. Predators devour. Prey submit. It had worked for millennia. But humanity shattered the pattern. And when one chain broke, others followed. Every oppressed world had watched Earth with pity. They saw humans penned in, fleets around their skies, titans culling their cities. They had seen it before, the young race on the edge of extinction. But then they saw something new. They saw humans fight back. They saw titans fall. They saw the noose burn. And suddenly silence across the galaxy turned to murmurs. Murmurs became whispers. Whispers became screams. On worlds long conquered, revolts ignited. Slaves rose with stolen weapons. Civilians tore down statues of their overlords. For the first time in centuries, the predators looked over their shoulders. The cattle were restless. The harvesters sent more fleets. They expected humanity to falter, to crumble under sheer numbers. But humans had been forged in worse. Every defeat was another blueprint. Every victory was another experiment, where alien empires designed ships for beauty, for efficiency, for tradition. Humanity designed ships for war. Brutal, ugly hulls bristling with guns, engines that screamed, weapons that overheated, systems that tore themselves apart from sheer violence. But they worked. Humans built railguns the size of skyscrapers. Missiles with warheads stitched from scavenged reactors. Carriers that vomited swarms of drones piloted by AIs cobbled together from scrap code. And what they could not build, they stole. Captured dreadnoughts were stripped, reassembled and sent back into battle wearing human colors. Predator weapons were bent into shapes their creators had never imagined. The harvesters relied on millennia of tradition. Humans relied on one thing: progress at any cost. As humanity surged outward, others followed. On the slave world of Karath, humans armed the locals with improvised weapons and watched as an entire continent burned its masters alive. On the gas mines of Zoril, humans taught workers to overload reactors and turned them into bombs that swallowed fleets whole. On the desert colony of Thrain, humans fought side by side with insectoid rebels, proving that even prey species could strike terror when they had humans at their side. And everywhere they went, the same message spread: humanity fights back. Humanity wins. Humanity inspires. The harvesters had never known fear. But now they felt it. Their titans fell. Their fleets shattered. Their strongholds burned, and it was not just the humans. It was everyone. Every enslaved, every broken, every silenced voice, all rising, all screaming. But the center of the fire was always Earth. Humans led charges where others hesitated. Humans invented weapons others thought suicidal. Humans refused to stop when logic demanded retreat, and the galaxy realized the truth. Humans were not prey at all. Humans were predators. Predators of predators. The war was not easy. For every victory, oceans of human blood were spilled. For every titan that fell, cities burned. For every dreadnought captured, colonies starved. But it did not matter. Because for the first time in history, the predators were retreating. The harvesters, the unstoppable, the inevitable, the eternal, were losing. Not to gods, not to empires, but to humanity. Across 1,000 systems, human fleets left messages in fire. On the ruins of fallen strongholds, they carved words into the stars. We are humanity. We are not prey. We are not cattle. We are coming. Entire species whispered those words in secret. Rebels painted them on walls. Soldiers screamed them into battle. Even predators began to fear the phrase because it was not just a message, it was a promise. The galaxy had changed. The cattle were free, the prey were predators, and humanity was no longer a whisper. Humanity was a roar. The galaxy had thought the harvesters eternal. They were older than empires, larger than planets, inevitable as gravity. But inevitability bleeds, and humanity made it bleed again, and again, and again. The war dragged on. Worlds burned, fleets shattered. Every time the harvesters tried to cage humanity, the cage failed. The titans were no longer gods. They were carcasses stripped for parts. The dreadnoughts were no longer unassailable. They were trophies flown in human colors. The harvesters were no longer predators. They were prey. And across the galaxy, silence fell. The silence of realization. The galaxy had always measured progress in centuries, but humans measured it in battles. Every weapon captured was dissected. Every tactic stolen, twisted, improved. Every death turned into another design. Humans compressed millennia of innovation into decades. What other species required eons to achieve? Humanity forged in blood and desperation. They began to wield weapons the galaxy had never seen before. Rail, cannons that fired asteroids through, fleets, drones that learned faster than their makers, engines that bent laws no other civilization dared to touch, and the galaxy realized the truth. Humans were not evolving. They were accelerating. The whispers spread again. But now they were no longer whispers. The cattle fight back. The cattle win. The cattle are loose. The cattle are free. And finally, the cattle are gone. They are something else now. When humanity broke through the last blockade, when the final Titan fell, when the harvesters retreated into the dark, the galaxy expected peace. But peace was never humanity's goal, because humans had seen too much. Too many cages, too many corpses, too many predators waiting for weakness. Humanity did not want survival. Humanity wanted dominance, and so the fleet spread, not as liberators, not as conquerors, but as something greater, something the galaxy had no name for. The predators had created harvesters to end young races. But in caging humanity, they had created something far worse. A species that adapts faster than any empire. A species that learns from every death. A species that never, ever stops. In the dark halls of abandoned worlds, the galaxy now whispers one last phrase. Humanity was never our prey. Humanity was our extinction. And across the stars, human fleets burn their message into the void. We are humanity. We are not prey. We are not cattle. We are coming. The predators tremble. The rebels cheer. The galaxy holds its breath, because everyone knows the truth now. The age of harvesters is over. The age of humanity has begun.